Number 12 is how do you find the time to cook and meal prep? So what I do is I just cook in bulk. I only choose, say when at the start of my week, when I figure out what I want to make for the week, I just choose a few lunches and a few dinners, like 2 lunches and 3 dinners, a couple breakfasts or something, like really basic. Usually it's some of like my go-to meals or just things I just think of in my head. But I only choose a couple of recipes and write down the ingredients I need for each. And then that lasts me the whole week. So I'm only cooking a few nights a week, or sometimes if it's just a salad that's already done, or if the roast veggies are already done, then you just got to cook whatever protein you choose. And because you don't have to wait for the chicken to be like cooked in the middle or anything, it's a few minutes in the pan.
Yeah.
I think it's quicker. It is more food prep compared to someone who might be eating meat or eating like the Western diet and are buying like a lot of takeout. So it might be a bit of a transition, but I just always say to my clients, cook the things in bulk that take the longest. So whether it's a big pot of rice at the start of the week or a whole oven tray of roast veggies or a big thing of quinoa or pasta, and then you can even just change your flavoring throughout the week, or whatever salad or veggies you want to have on the side, or whatever protein, but you've got that bulk of whatever it is to mix into your meals, and it makes it really easy. And yeah, you can even just do like huge things of soup or lentil, like what is it? Those like chili dishes and stuff, and then just put it in the freezer for freezer meals for when you're really busy. But I don't think it's hard at all. I just think you need to be on top of planning your meals for the week and then just prepping. But I don't think it's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't think that it's that much extra time. I've done these things. People always ask me at work, like, oh, you bring your lunch to work every single day. Like, how do you have the time in the morning to wake up and make yourself breakfast and lunch? And I actually like did this on my Instagram. I like set my phone up and I like filmed myself making my lunch and then saw like how long it was. And it was literally like 11 minutes. And I was like, 11 minutes, guys. Like, and I can cut that in half. I could go longer, like depending on what you're making. But it's really not that much time extra to just prioritize yourself. You know, it's an investment in the long run to just spend an extra 10 minutes. And if you look at your screen time, how much time you're spending on your phone scrolling, you can save, like you can knock like 20 minutes off of that to cook yourself a healthy meal. I really think that it's possible. So that's what I would say to that.
Yeah. And what I do is usually I'll just cook like a bigger dinner, and then say the next day if I have leftover stir fry, if it's like a pasta salad, I might just cook like those vegan chicken tenders in the morning. So if I'm cooking my breakfast, if I'm making like something on toast, eating some, I don't usually have the traditional cereal, but I have cereal like made from lots of seeds and stuff. I will just be eating that and then just cooking the chicken in the pan at the same time. And I can go on my phone at the same time. It's just like, well, it's like, it's just multitasking, I guess, but it's like really easy. And then I usually just take protein shakes and smoothies because I can't even go 3 hours without eating. So when I'm at work, I'm like, okay, just got to work and like, hungry. So like have some protein shake and stuff to help you feeling full, keep you going and help with your mental concentration and stuff. But you just put it in the shaker and take it. It's really, really quick.
Yeah, there's tons of really quick meals. I stopped baking sweet potatoes because I was like, I don't have an hour to wait for a sweet potato to bake, and I just microwave it for like 10 minutes. And like just things like that, or like the Instant Pot, like a spaghetti squash takes like an hour to roast in the oven, but you can have an Instant Pot and cook it in, I think it's like 10 minutes. And there's tons of like little time savers you can find, or just making things work for you. Like if you don't have time to make yourself lunch in the morning, I feel like you probably have like 2 minutes to make yourself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which is plant-based. And you could do like some natural peanut butter and some whole grain bread, and it would be pretty high in protein and high in calories to keep you full for longer. It would take you like 5 minutes at most to put it together. And it's better than spending, $15 on the drive-through somewhere and, eating some fast food. Like I think we all have enough time to like make those little meals for ourselves, and prioritize our health.
Yeah, and even if you just spend the Sunday doing a savory thing, like the huge tray of roast veggies or something, and then like a sweet thing, like if you just do bliss balls. Like I made bliss balls over a week ago, and I've still got like half the container left, and you've just got something sweet to nibble on if you're hungry, just like a healthy snack in the fridge. The other thing with plant-based food is it lasts way longer. I eat food up to a week old, like 5 to 7 days old, because it doesn't grow the same bacteria, I would say, as like if it has meat in it. Like it's not dangerous as such. So depending on the dish, as long as it's not, depending on what ingredients go into it. But yeah, when I was doing that, I just found, yeah, the food just lasts a lot longer, so you don't need to worry about that kind of thing. So that's like a helpful thing as well.
Yeah. And you can always freeze stuff if you think it's going to go bad, you know. So,
yeah. Number 12, what are the number 13, what are the negatives of going plant-based? So some of the notes I've got here is being prepared, as we we're just saying. I don't think it's a negative, but it might just be a change for someone who isn't already doing that. So it's just developing those new habits so that you can set yourself up for success. Social judgment and criticism and being the weird one. I don't really care.
That's exactly what I have written down, being the weird one and isolation and family criticism.
I don't really mind because I kind of handle it in a funny way. If someone, I don't know, if I'm like at a dinner or something and someone's like, oh, do you not eat meat? And I'm like, yeah, but my biceps are bigger than you. Then I'll show them my bicep and they're like, oh.
Oh my gosh. That's a superpower. That's great.
Yeah, so I don't mind because I know in myself that I'm doing something amazing. So another way I look at it is like every time you sit down for a meal, you're like, whoa, I'm saving the planet, or like the animals I have it like 3 times a day or like 5 times a day, including snacks. You're like, wow, I'm doing something amazing. And you sit down, well, I'm doing like the right thing. And it's really good for your spiritual self, like your mental health, knowing that you're making a difference. So I don't mind. And I guess I just like proving people wrong anyway. I'm doing my first bodybuilding show in 3 weeks, and I kind of jumped into it because I needed it for my mental health. Look after myself, keep going to the gym and stuff. So it was more motivation to stay on track with my health. And yeah, I had this girl message me the other day and she's like, yeah, I really want to go back to my back to plant-based eating. When I did it, I had so much energy and felt amazing. But she said her boyfriend is also into bodybuilding and is so against it. And I've like been told that a lot. You can never get lean because it's got so many carbs. It's impossible. I'm just like, well, I'm gonna do it. And I just
do you remember me telling you that? I had like commented on one of your videos when you talked about like, I think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to compete. And I do things a little bit differently. Do you remember me commenting on that? I think that was like when we first started talking.
Oh, I can't remember what you said though.
I just was like, you have to do this. Like you have to be someone that like, you know, proves everybody wrong. You have to be like another example of a fit, healthy, plant-based eater. You know what I mean? And like just show everybody that you're competing with. Because you were saying that you like do everything a little differently and that you like spoke to a coach and they were like, oh, you want to do it that way? But like it's so cool to like challenge the normalcy of everything involved in that and be like, look, I did it. And hopefully you win.
Yeah, I think even with my whole prep, like I'm only sounds ridiculous. I gave myself 6 weeks instead of 20 weeks because I'm just jumping into it for my mental health, I would say.
Yeah.
Which is like ridiculous for most people, but I'm still doing things that other people aren't even doing. Like I was still drinking wine and stuff. I really needed like a glass of Pinot Gris, and I was like, I really need this, and it's like just nice to relax at the end of the day. Everyone else like hasn't had a drink for like the last 3 months, and I'm like, oh well, like I'm just living my life. So it's not like I'm not dedicated and like I don't care, but I'm just trying to do it in a way that's nice and being kind to my body. I didn't go to the gym to do my session yesterday because I literally felt like I couldn't do it. So I just made sure I had a good sleep so I can do double the effort today and make sure I stay on track. But I find, I'm taking a completely different approach to most people. And I know there's still a few vegan bodybuilders. It's very uncommon, but I want to just do it, in a way that's not so harsh on the body. And, very kind to yourself, listening to what you actually need and stuff. So it'll just be interesting to see how it turns out. So I'm really nervous. It'll be exciting.
Yeah. I am really excited for you. I think that you're going to make a really big impact on anyone that like follows your journey doing it. Any like videos or posts you make about it, anyone watching you, I think is going to like be really inspired by the way that you're doing things. Because like you said, a lot of people do develop like poor relationships with food and with their body and their body image. And like the fact that you're just doing things completely differently, I think is going to inspire a lot of people.
Hopefully. Yeah. Did you have anything else to add about like any more negatives about plant-based or veganism?
No, I mean, the isolation, being the weird one, family criticism, those are like the only negatives, I think, because everything else about this lifestyle for me has been nothing but positive. I guess maybe you might, and a negative might be bloating. That is something I hear a lot of people complain about at the beginning because their guts aren't used to digesting high fiber foods. So that's something a lot of people are constantly DMing me saying, like, I want to eat the way you're eating. And I tried like a few recipes, but then like, oh, it kind of hurt my stomach. And, you have to go, like, I eat a lot of beans, like way more beans than most people eat. And people see that and they're like, how are you digesting that? And like, it just takes like some patience with your body to like incorporate those foods slowly and build that up. So, but yeah, other than that, I really don't see any negatives to this lifestyle. I was just telling the lady at Trader Joe's today, like, I'm thriving. I'll be vegan for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to touch on as well, because one of the reasons I went plant-based was because I was so bloated before making the switch.
Oh, really?
Like,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I had mentioned that the first time we filmed this video, but I had like such a pregnant stomach after every meal. It was bursting through my clothes. And I've been to hospital a few times. I thought I had pains in my uterus. I thought I had ectopic pregnancy. And they're like, oh, they felt around. They're like, oh, that's just your bowels. And I'm like, oh. My bloating was so bad. And it's, I don't think I could break down meat properly, like probably more red meat and stuff that takes longer to digest. And couldn't tolerate most types of gluten, and dairy was so bad as well. So probably like personal information, but I was only going to the bathroom like every 4 days. So I was like so clogged up. Yeah, that's when I was at uni. And like the food they fed us at uni was really old meat, and like the veggies would be like 2 soggy pieces of broccoli, like nothing, and heaps of white bread. And that's like what we were fed on campus as well. So we didn't really have a choice. And then when I watched these, I finished uni and I started working in the city, and then watched What the Health. That was the first thing. The first one ever, I watched Earthlings, and that it's very intense, but I think so important at the same time. And then I tried going vegetarian, only lasted 3 weeks, and like didn't know what to do, and then stopped. Then after I watched What the Health, I'm like, what? People are reversing their deadly diseases, like getting better. And then I made the switch, and then my bloating has like healed, and I still would get bloating from some foods up until I realized probably the last year. I think it's been 3.5 years for me now. Over the last 1 to 2 years, I only get bloated maybe once a month, like if that, like only a few times a year, I would say. And what I say to my clients is, like, if they try to have beans, instead of having this whole thing of beans in their meal, just add a tablespoon or 2 spoonfuls, so it's like a very small amount, and then you'll over time you'll build the right gut bacteria to end up so that your body learns how to digest it properly. But yeah, I think it is literally just the fiber, because most people in the world probably aren't eating enough. And
they're not.
Information as well. But when you go to the bathroom, you shouldn't have to try, if that makes sense. Like if you're like men, or I think it's usually men, they like say how they're like sitting in there for ages. They can read a whole magazine while they're in there. Imagine how much time that would take. But like, you shouldn't have to strain, or it shouldn't be an effort. It should just be like easy, and you should be going between 1 and 3 times a day. And that means that your body's working properly, you're flushing out all the toxins and like getting all the food moving through. And then that also helps avoid bowel cancer as well, because that's from not having enough fiber, and then all this toxins and like rotten food are like building up in your intestines and stuff, and then that's what, like, one of the things that can cause cancer. So if you're just keeping everything moving through, like heaps of fiber and stuff, it's really, really good for you in the long run. But yeah, just being like patient and working into it slowly, like just trying a few meals a week and like slowly adding ingredients, building up your gut bacteria to be able to handle all of that stuff. And
absolutely
ruling out food intolerances as well. Just when I have clients, like with the whole gluten thing, I swap to gluten-free bread and gluten-free pasta. But say if I have the vegan chicken and it's got like a crumb on it, I don't worry if it's got gluten, because it's such a small amount my body doesn't notice. So I think I just do it for the major things, like things that you're eating like large portions of. So it's not strict gluten-free, but depends on the person again. But just swapping out the things that contain heaps of gluten that are really gluggy and heavy in your stomach, that's a big tip as well.
Yeah. As far as the gluten thing, I actually just red fiber fueled. And I think if anybody is feeling like they possibly have an issue with gluten, that would be a really good book to read. It's by a guy named Dr. Will Bolshewitz. He just goes by Dr. B. And he also has a bunch of podcasts, and his Instagram is the Gut Health MD. But he has this whole thing. I was just reading it, talking about how a lot of people think that they have an issue with gluten, but they don't. And by eliminating it actually causes more harm than good. So I just think if anybody is kind of dabbling into like, considering if they think they might have some sort of issue with gluten, that they should read that book. So
yeah, I just found by having gluten-free bread instead of normal bread, I was having wholemeal seed, wholemeal stuff before, but just the gluten-free stuff, it's a lot less gluggy in your stomach. And I also tell my clients about like food combining. So instead of just having toast for breakfast, adding peanut butter, banana, and chia seeds, so it's got like a lot more stuff to digest with instead of just bread. So that's one tip as well. Or if you're having pasta, adding like heaps of broccoli or spinach or lots of greens to it, so it's a lot easier to digest. I just find that's worked for me as well.
Yeah.
Number 14, how is a vegan diet and ketogenic diet both leading if they are so opposite? So I've been wanting to write a blog post on this for years, and I just like listening to different people's stories and experiences and stuff to come to my own conclusion. But I've just written a huge blog post on it, like comparing the negatives and positives of keto diet, vegan diet, and plant-based diet. And with the keto it's so funny because me and you our last conversation was so funny. There's only like 3 positives and there was like 20 negatives. So number 1 positive is you can lose weight, like people use it for weight loss. But then there's been these studies done and most of it is water weight. It's not even fat loss. And because it's not sustainable long term, so once you go back to your normal way of eating, like you haven't gained anything, you're just doing yo-yo dieting. One of the other positives is you can get, like people do feel more energetic. And another one is that it cuts out lots of processed food and unhealthy sugars, which is good. But the list of negatives is like so bad. It's not even worth it. And then with plant-based diet and veganism, it's basically all the stuff we've already talked about, like so many negatives, like reversing disease, like actual weight loss, weight maintenance, doing good for the planet. No one, like the whole world can't eat keto with all the meat and dairy because the planet can't like keep up kind of thing. Yeah, so it's just not good. And last time we had the conversation, we were just saying how people just use it for an external reason, like I want to lose weight, but they eat so much butter, and I've heard people say they just eat the cheap shitty cuts of meat, like they cut the fat off the pork and then eat that part, and like it just sounds so horrific. And they eat hardly any veggies on it. I think you can do it in like an okay way if you do eat heaps of salad and stuff, but it's not necessary to cut out carbs like basically 100% or to only 5 grams a day or however they do it. Like there's so many other ways that you can achieve better results by eating in a more sustainable way that's better for your health. So many other reasons.
Yeah. Absolutely. Basically, just to reiterate what you just said, keto is popular because you do lose weight. And, it's really, I can empathize with somebody seeing a family member or a friend or a coworker, and they're like, I've done keto and I've lost 100 pounds. Like, obviously you're going to be intrigued by that. And anybody that does keto pretty much seems to have success and lose weight. But at what cost? And like the cost is, like you said, like you're pretty much decreasing your lifespan. You're increasing your risk for getting all these chronic Western diseases, because we have science to show us that the more meat and dairy and eggs that you're consuming, the more you're increasing your risk of heart disease and cancer and stroke and diabetes. So it doesn't really make sense to go on a whole diet based off of those foods. Like, you might lose weight, but then do you end up with heart disease at the end of it? Like, that's not what you want, I would assume. So a lot of people, I think, just kind of ignore. And then obviously, like the environmental impact, like you said, of just eating like a pretty much like animal product based diet. I mean, I know some people have like avocados and nuts and stuff, but pretty much animal products are the main thing in keto. And that, like you said, it's really, really harmful for the environment. Anybody that I think is like questioning that a little bit should watch Cowspiracy on Netflix. That kind of dives into the negative environmental impact of raising animals for food. I would highly recommend watching that. And also Seaspiracy just came out, which I think is incredible. I got to recommend that one as well. But also, I think we should link this video. I posted on my Instagram recently that I was interested in if anybody knew of any long-term studies on ketogenic diets. And nobody really gave me anything. So I just was doing a bunch of research on my own. And I actually found this video that we can link below by this guy he's an earth scientist. And he has been for, I think he said like 15 or 16 years in his last video I watched. And he just did a really good job of just like objectively comparing plant-based and keto diets. So I think we should link that below for anybody that is also curious. I found a lot of information in there that I thought was like, he did a really good job.
Yeah. I think it was, in that Cowspiracy doco as well, I think we should mention that thing about only eating grass-fed meat because it's better for your health. But then if we don't even have enough space as it is for all the animals, then if everyone eats grass-fed, there's like no land. We wouldn't even fit on the planet.
I think they say that we would need like 4 Earths. Like the population where it's at right now, we would need like 4 Earths to sustain that amount of livestock grazing. And, you know, they have to grow all of the food to feed the livestock too. So that takes up a lot of room. And, you know, we're currently tearing down the rainforests to make room for growing soy to feed them and making room for them to be able to just walk around. We do not have enough space on this planet to sustain everybody eating that way.
Yeah. So there's a lot of misinformation as well. Like I've had some friends who are into eating like mostly vegan and stuff, but it's just because of, I don't know if it's marketing or different propaganda that's out there. And they're like, oh, isn't it really bad to have tofu and soy milk because the Amazon's getting teared down for like soybeans? And I'm like, no, that's for the animal food. So you need all this soy to feed the cows, but like one person eating this tofu is nothing compared to the animal. So it's just like really doesn't make sense in terms of like the calories we get like from the land, like the amount of food that we can produce getting fed to a cow to get like one piece of steak versus like we could end world hunger if most people were eating plant-based and vegan.
Yeah. I read somewhere, I don't remember why I looked this up, but I wanted to know like what the conversion was, like how many calories we are putting into feeding a chicken versus how much we get out. And the ratio was 8-1. And a chicken is the most like sustainable animal product. You know, that's not, I don't even know what the ratio is for feeding a cow and how much, you know, protein we get out of that or calories we get out of that. But yeah, 8-1. So we're feeding them like 8 times the amount of food that we get in return from taking their meat. And like, that's a lot. Yeah. So yeah, don't do it, guys.
Number 15, I'll let you answer this one. It's favorite vegan nutrition books, because I think you had a few good ones.
Yeah, How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger is amazing if you're interested in preventing some of the illnesses that you have seen your family suffer from, that you think, you know, I'm doomed to get this disease because everyone in my family has it. And then you start to kind of realize like, well, there's certain lifestyle factors that are at play that have contributed to why everyone in your family has that disease. And even if there's this quote that says your genes, your like genetic makeup, your genes, like they load the gun, but your lifestyle is what pulls the trigger. And I just think that that's like so powerful. Like you might be at some sort of like predisposition to diabetes or something. I know I am. My dad has an autoimmune disease. My grandma has diabetes. My grandpa just got diagnosed with cancer and prostate cancer. I was trying to think of what it was, prostate cancer. And that's just on one side of the family. That's not even considering my mom's, like she has breast cancer on her side. But I genuinely feel that I am, you know, after reading this book, How Not to Die, he just goes through like how not to die of breast cancer, how not to die of diabetes, how not to die of heart disease, and like all the studies, everything that we have talking about what leads to people developing those diseases. Because like we said in the blue zones, people aren't getting those diseases at the alarming rates that we are in Western societies. And there's like plenty of populations that have like really, 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 like, if any, low rates of certain cancers and stuff that we just think like it's like a 1 in 4 chance for those things here in the US or maybe in Australia. And so I think that book, How Not to Die, is just really powerful for anyone to read. I know that I was like, I need to share this with everybody. Like when I found out that my grandpa had his cancer, I was like immediately reading that chapter and like sharing that information with my dad. And I don't think he's going to listen, but it's just cool to know, like, to tell my dad who's eating plant-based, like, hey, look, like you're not going to, you have an opportunity here to not go down that same path. So, and I think that that's like really empowering, because some people just kind of throw their hands up and they're like, well, it's going to happen to me, and like it doesn't have to.
Yeah, they show that stuff a lot, like in the documentaries and stuff. Yeah, they're like, oh, this disease runs in my family, but then they're like, the lifestyle habits and eating habits run in the family. So it's like, oh my God. And it's so sad. Yeah, people just accept it, like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to get cancer. And like, you don't have to get it. Yeah. So like, yeah, crazy.
So yeah, How Not to Die, and then Fiber Fueled also. That's on like the nutrition aspect of things. There's another book that I think is really important to read. It's by the Joyful Vegan. And I think it's called How to Stay Vegan in a World That Wants You to Eat Meat, Dairy, and Eggs. I think it's like a really long title like that. But that one's a really good book too. So those are my top 3.
The other one is the China study. I haven't read the book because I don't have like the attention span to sit down and read, but I like watching videos about it, like about the research findings and stuff. But that one is very informative as well.
Yeah, the video that we're going to link about the guy comparing keto and plant-based, he has another video on his channel, which is what led me to his channel in the first place, that he actually goes through and he's like going through, like, I didn't even know there were this many nutrition books out there. And from like the 1500s till now, tons of nutrition books. He goes through and he pretty much just like lays it out here for you, like, okay, here's this guy from the 1500s, this is his book that he wrote, and this is the lifestyle that he promoted, and he kind of inspired this guy, and that guy inspired this guy who wrote the Atkins diet, and now they're doing the keto diet, and there's all this stuff and tons of plant-based things thrown in there too. And he just talks about like, okay, well, this is the book that they wrote, here it is, this is what they promoted, and here's how old they were when they died and what they died of. And I just thought it was so interesting, like seeing how so many people died like in their 50s and 60s from a stroke or from a heart attack and things like that. And they were promoting this way of eating. And then people continue to buy that book and not pay attention to like, okay, the guy that like, really enthusiastically promoted this lifestyle, like, look what happened to him. Do we really want to follow his advice?
Yeah. So, does it say in there? Because I saw somewhere like the guy who invented the Atkins and like keto diet died of like heart disease or something. Did it say anything about that? Because I don't know if it was true or not.
He mentioned it a little bit, and I'm pretty sure what he said was that the cause of his death is unknown. I don't know if they like never wanted to disclose it or anything. But they did have a guy in there. I don't know if you've ever seen the show The Biggest Loser. There was it's like, do you know what I'm talking about? The Biggest Loser. They like, okay. So there was a coach on there, I forget his name, but he really, really, really promoted like a high animal protein, low carbohydrate diet. And he was like fit and chiseled and like the epitome of health, like if you looked at him. And he actually had a heart attack at around the age of like 50. And luckily he survived it. And then he spent a while afterwards working with cardiologists to understand, like, why did this happen to me? I thought I was healthy. I promoted all these, lifestyles and was showing them to everybody and encouraging people to live the way that I live. But then this happened to me. So why did this happen? And he worked with all of them. And now he actually just came out with another, like a new book. And he's like completely flipped the scripts. And I think it's called like, it's like the carbohydrate miracle or something like that. And it's just like the complete opposite, like all about like plant-based eating and how cardiologists like recommend that and how he's got this whole new like take on life. And he was mentioned in there. So I thought that was really cool. But there's so many different examples in that video. We should link that for everyone too, that if they want to watch it.
That's so interesting. Yeah. The last question is number 16, how to choose a dairy-free milk. So it's a very like light question, I guess you could say. I'll make it a little bit deeper. I just want to touch on on drinking cow's milk, because I made this graphic and put it on my Instagram, and I said, why would you wake up in the morning and drink someone else's mum's milk? So if we think it's weird, like, say if I'm 24, if I was still like breastfeeding from my mum, like everyone would think I'm weird, but then why would we drink someone else's mum's milk? And there's no other species in the world that drinks milk from another animal, obviously, like unless their mum died, like another animal takes them in kind of thing, which doesn't happen often. But like there's no, like, we wouldn't drink our dog's milk and take their puppies off them so that we could have it instead, or anything like that. Or why not like rhino milk or like giraffe milk and stuff. And heaps of people think that the reason cows are on the earth is to give us milk, but they've got to be impregnated first, and they only live a few years, because then they're so exhausted from having all these babies and being milked every day that they just get sent to slaughter at like only a few years old. But the way, like, I saw this life-changing video, and it was just saying, like, because cows are so big compared to humans, they like looked at the protein content in cow mammal milk compared to humans, and it's just such a different formula, because they need to grow their baby calf into like this massive mammal as fast as possible so that they can survive. And when you put that into the human body, they say that it makes all your organs grow, like all your reproductive organs and stuff, and makes your uterus grow and your like breasts and stuff. I don't know how true that is, but I realized that I used to have like huge boobs when I was at school. I don't know if it's coincidence, but then they like shrunk a little bit, and I don't know if it's because my puberty just stopped and my hormones flipped, but it was like the same time that I stopped drinking cow's milk. And I realized that like a few years ago, I was like, wait a minute, that's so weird. And I don't know if it's linked to that or not, but I just think it's so important to think that, like, people are like, oh yeah, cow's milk will make you grow big and strong, and helps you survive and have strong bones. But then if you've got cancer cells, it makes the cancer cells grow, and it makes everything grow. And it's also like very mucus binding in the body. So I stopped cow's milk when I was 17. Before that, I had a cough for a whole year. Every season, I just like couldn't stop coughing up this mucus. And then I stopped drinking it, and then it just went away. And like the doctors would never tell you that. They just would give you a pill to like try and fix it, which doesn't. But I just think it completely just doesn't make sense to be having that in your diet. Do you have anything else to add to that?
A few things. So you mentioned the China study a minute ago, and the doctor that wrote the China study and like did all those experiments, he actually has it in the book that he was able to, he grew up on a dairy farm, and when he went to,
I can't remember his name, but I think that was the one in the video I saw who said makes everything grow, but I don't remember what thing he...
I believe it's Dr. T. Colin Campbell. I think that's who it is.
Oh, yeah.
I know this like off the top of my head right now, because I actually was scrolling on Amazon Prime last night for like documentaries to watch, and I stumbled upon a documentary and it mentioned this. But he was talking about how his whole thing was, he went in, I want to say it was Malaysia. He wanted to help the people there, the children, to be healthier, and he wanted to get them more protein. His whole thing was based off of like children need more protein to grow and like to be healthier and stuff. And then he started to realize that the areas that consumed the certain like villages and areas and cities that consumed the highest amounts of animal protein had the highest rates of cancer. So he took that back to the university that he was working at, and he actually like showed a little like graph thing on his presentation he was giving, showing that so casein is the main protein found in cow's milk, and he was showing that in rats they did a study where they increased the amount of casein, and they would see the trend towards cancer go up. Then they would take it away, reduce the casein, completely eliminate it, and then they would see it go down. And the way he described that, it was just like this zigzag, like take the casein away, and then all of a sudden your cancer starts to go away, and then put the casein back in and your cancer goes up. And he was like, we have proof that in rats you can turn on and off the cancer cells by increasing the casein, the dairy from the cows.
Yeah.
And he was like, this, shook me basically. Like, I live on a dairy farm, I'm promoting all of this, like, and that was kind of what led him to create the China study, to like go through and really like dive deep into analyzing that. And I just thought that was like really interesting. So I wanted to mention that. And also, like, yes, dairy is like the cruelest industry, I personally think, on the planet, because not only are we killing an animal, but we are forcefully impregnating another female animal, a mammal, and that's a really gross process. And then taking the baby away, they carry their babies for as long as humans do. So about 9 months, they carry their baby. And then as soon as they give birth to it, we just take it away. And I just, as a woman, I cannot imagine the psychological toll that would take on me to like carry someone inside of me for that long and be so excited to meet my child and then have someone take it away and hook me up to a machine and take my breast milk for another species to drink that doesn't need it and that's making their people actually sicker from consuming it. Like, none of it makes any sense to me at all. I absolutely think dairy is just the worst of the worst. And so many people don't know that. So like they're contributing to it without knowing it. Like I had a coworker once who said, well, like, don't cows just make milk? And I said, no, babe, they don't make milk because they're cows. They make milk because they're mothers. And she was a mom and she was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, you know, the breast milk that like you produced after you had your baby a few years ago to feed your baby, all mammals do the same thing. You know this. And she's like, oh, like all this like light bulb went on. She was like, oh my God, I had no idea. Like nobody really takes the time to think about it. I didn't. But when you actually like look at it, like you're like, none of this makes sense. Why are we doing this?
Yeah. And it's so sad as well because like the boys, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, how humans just think that we just throw away the useless things, like in the egg industry, all the male chicks that are born, which is like half of the eggs, they're like so useless, so they just ground them up alive. Same as the bobby calves, like they're not going to give us milk, so they just get sent to slaughter straight away, which is really sad. But I've even heard people say like, yeah, like milking the cows is so good for them. They just love it and it makes them so happy. And that's because their breasts are so full and probably painful that they can't wait to get this milk out of them. But I couldn't imagine like having a baby year after year. And then like, oh, I saw this, such a sad story. This cow had twins and one of the babies got taken off, but the farmer didn't notice the second baby for like a few days. And the cow like would hide it in the bush and like feed it in secret, and eventually the farmer found it and took it as well. But it's like, I just like can't believe how sad it is. And another thing related to the health is the studies show that the countries around the world who drink the most amounts of milk also have the highest rates of
Osteoporosis.
And it's because, the sentence is so long, but it's like because when you have more protein, it increases the acidity in your blood. So I think your body pulls the calcium from your bones to neutralize the acid or something like that. So it actually has the opposite effect. So it's not actually giving you strong bones. So if you have the other sources of calcium, like the plant-based sources, it will actually do its job, if that makes sense. But everyone's just like, yeah, you need it for strong bones and you get so strong. And it's like, making them break their bones when they get older.
It's just not good for anybody involved, and it needs to be a thing of the past. I think we're moving towards that. Our question, how to choose a dairy-free milk. There are so many dairy-free milk alternatives out there. Starbucks has Oatly now, and I've had their drink. I've been getting it actually, like shamefully. I've been getting their new drink, the oat milk brown sugar latte, and it's phenomenal. But you can just go and you can get soy milk and oat milk and almond milk, and there's like a million other hemp milk, and like just there's no reason to drink cow's milk. There really isn't.
Yeah, with soy milk, I think that's my favorite one because I like the creamy thickness of it. And I'd say
plus the protein too. Like soy milk is like creamiest and has the highest amount of protein and like the lowest amount of fat, because like oat milk they add oil to it sometimes.
Oh yeah, oat milk is really nice in coffee as well, but soy milk's my go-to, because I like the thickness, but it's also got the most nutrients, I think. And there's, we won't touch on it too much now, but there's all these misconceptions about soy that will give you cancer, but that's a complete lie, because all the people in Asia who eat soy every day, all the women, they've got the lowest amounts of breast cancer. So it's not going to give you man boobs or give you breast cancer or anything like that. So soy milk is actually really good for you. And that's like, a great source of nutrients, and it tastes amazing. Other than that, like I usually just have soy milk as my go-to, but sometimes if I feel like something different, I'll buy a different one to put in my smoothie or something. But you just like taste a few and then just see whatever one's your favorite, and then you'll be good from there.
And just know that drinking it on its own, probably not going to be the most pleasant experience. Like sometimes, I mean, I kind of like drinking soy milk after I'll like dip some coffee or some cookies in it. And it's like a little bit sweeter from like a little bit of the sugar that come up from the cookies. Like then I'll drink it, but I never just like reach for a glass of plant milk to drink. But like in cereals and in recipes, and you just, it swaps so easily. And as far as like dairy free other products like sour cream and cheeses, like they just keep getting better. And it's sometimes a waste of money. You buy something and you're like, okay, that was disgusting. Like I bought the sour cream once from Target and I was pissed. I was like, this is the grossest thing ever. But since then I have found like 5 other vegan sour creams that I love, and that my family loves too, because I went on the hunt for it because my fiance's mom loves putting sour cream on stuff, and I was like, well, there's got to be a vegan sour cream out there that is good. So I went on the mission and tried all of them, and I found a few that I like. And like vegan cheeses, they just, if you think of just Daiya, you're kind of like living in the past, even though like they have reformulated their brand and they have a really good cheese now. But there's Violife, there's Follow Your Heart, like there's so many different vegan cheeses. And like I live in California, there's a few different like vegan cheese shops in LA that I could go to if I really wanted to. You can buy like really fancy like vegan brie online. Like there's so many options. And then there's nutritional yeast. Like there's plenty of options for vegan cheeses. I have a whole highlight actually like on my Instagram of just like labeled vegan cheese, where I like have posted about like a few of my favorites. And I used to love cheese before I went vegan. I remember having this conversation with one of my friends once where this other girl like chimed in and was like, oh, I've never had some sort of like fancy cheese. And I was like, oh, you haven't? Like I loved cheese, and like going vegan and knowing that there's like, I didn't have to give that up, that little like secret little hobby of mine of like loving cheeses. I can still keep that, So anyways.
Well, I think that's everything for today. If anyone watching has any questions, just link them below, and we'll put like all of the resources and things we're talking about in the description as well. Did you have anything else to say before we finish up?
No, we've said it all. How does this happen?
Yeah. Cool. I think that's everything. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found it really informative. I just think it's so cool doing like a deep dive and like sharing our knowledge, because I've been looking into all this stuff for years and like listening to people's stories and finding information, and Allison does the same, just doing all this research, and it's like we both just find it so interesting. So yeah, thanks for coming on, and yeah, I hope that we can inspire some people to make some changes, and yeah.
Okay.
See ya. God.